Hi all, today we're going to get started with Libris Cloud Apps. So Cloud Apps is a framework provided by Libris that allows us to develop apps and then run them and host them in the Libris cloud. So in order to get started, I'm going to hop over to the Libris Developer Network. I'm going to click on Cloud Apps and then click on the Getting Started guide here. Now I've already run all of the prerequisites, so I've gone through the prerequisites and installed all of these. And I also have done this step here, and that's installing the CLI. So this is the command line interface, which is essentially the development environment for Cloud Apps. So I run this step here, and now I'm going to create a new application. So for that, I'm going to hop over to my terminal, or to my command prompt. I'm going to make a new directory here. And then I'm going to cd into that directory, and then I'm going to run ECA, which stands for Libris Cloud App init. And when I do that, I will provide an app title. So I guess this is my demo. And I'm going to provide an environment URL. So this is the URL for my Alma. I need any Alma environment, production, sandbox. And I'll just use the default port here. Once I've done all of that, the CLI tells me that it's created a bunch of files. And I'm going to go ahead and then type in ECA init. So again, Libris Cloud App init. Sorry, I just did that. Rather start. And what start is going to do is run an npm install to install all the dependencies. And while that's happening, let me go and pop over to Visual Studio Code. So Cloud Apps are Angular apps, so they're written with JavaScript and CSS and HTML, so you could really use any editor that you wanted to. I happen to like VS Code, so I will open this app that we've just created. And let's take a look around. So I have a manifest, and a manifest is a Cloud App specific file that lists things like ID, title, and description, and we can go back in here and add a bunch more metadata about our app later. And a config file, and the config file is where all of those values from the init script that I wrote, these are all stored here. Okay, and then the Cloud App itself, the code is here in this Cloud App folder underneath source app. Now it starts to look more like an Angular app if you're familiar. So I have these app component, app module. Those are Angular files. And then within my main component, I have my HTML and my TypeScript. So I'm going to come back here in a minute. And while we were doing that, so my development environment is now up and running on my machine. And I see here this is my login page to that sandbox environment that I mentioned. So let's go ahead. I'm going to log in here. Grab my password out of my password manager. And again, this is running locally, and it's proxying my my Alma environment. And this is going to allow me to develop my Cloud App locally using all of the same tools as if I was developing an Angular app locally. And I had already in this environment have activated Cloud Apps, so we have a link to configuration there. And so because I've done that, I'm in the latest version, which includes the new layout, and I have a Cloud App icon here. So I can go ahead and click on that. And then I have this first app here. This is the demo. So this first app, when I'm in my development environment, this is the app that I'm working on. So I click on that, and the app is opened. And we see we have an app. We have a page. So where does that come from? Let me hop back over to Visual Studio. My main component, here's my main HTML, and here's that HTML. So I can type welcome to my demo. I can save that, and when I save it, because I'm running in a local environment, the page automatically refreshes, and I see the change that I've made. So this allows me to make my changes and do development locally, and I see the changes right here in my browser. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the features of this scaffolding that's provided here as a part of the Cloud App. I'm going to click this pin just to pin the content of Alma to the left, and I'm going to look for a user. Now, this Cloud app is receiving events when a screen changes in Alma. So here, I've navigated to a screen in Alma. The Cloud app recognizes that the entities that are on this page have changed. There's one user object. And it also goes and see there's an ID, there's a type, there's a description, and I also went out and called the API to retrieve more information about that entity. So this works on many pages in Alma, and acquisitions and resource management and fulfillment. Let me go ahead into this user record. And again, my Cloud app recognizes that's where I am. Let me add a middle initial here to this, this JSON. Let me click on Update. And now I called the API to update the record. I've called a method in the Cloud App API to refresh my screen in Alma. And I see the change that I've just made is applied to the object inside of Alma. So that's a very brief kind of run through of the features of this scaffolding. And now I'm free to do my development, build the app that I want to build. And let's say I've done all of that, and now I want to actually publish this great app that I've built. So I'm going to come back over to my command line. I'll get out of the development environment, and I'm going to run ECA build in the background just to make sure that there are no compilation errors. I wouldn't want this app to be sent to Libris to be compiled and installed, and for me to run into compilation errors. So I'm going to run that there in the background. And in the meanwhile, the way that we publish our apps, so the apps have to be in GitHub. So I'm going to take this great app that I've developed, and I'm going to create a GitHub repository out of it. So I'm going to open up my GitHub desktop, which I have on my machine, and I've logged in with my GitHub credentials, and I'm going to add an existing repository. So I will go over to the path of my app, and it is right here, and I will click on that. And GitHub says it does not seem to be an existing Git repository. We would like to create one. Yes, we would. So I can change the name. I can add a description. I'll initialize it with the README. I'll add a license. We like to use BSD3. And I say create repository. So now I have my repository. If I look in the history, I've done a commit of all of my files from my Cloud app. And I can go ahead and publish this repository to GitHub. So I'm going to click on Publish Repository. And now my repository is being published to GitHub, where it's publicly available. And then I can click on Repository View on GitHub, and now I see that my app is available here in GitHub. I'm going to grab that URL because I'm going to need that in a minute. And the way that the Cloud App Framework pulls my app to build it and then make it available in Alma is that it uses releases. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new release, which basically just tags my code. I'm going to tag this as V001, really just my initial release. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click on Create Release, and now I have my first release. Okay, so now I've initialized a new app, I've made changes to it, I've built my app, I've put my code into GitHub, I've published my repository, and I've created an initial release. And the last step here is to hop over to the developer network again. And in the developer network, there is the App Center. The App Center is a place where all developers can share all sorts of projects that they've been working on. Some of those, or most of those, are standalone. You can download the code and use them. And then we also have all of our cloud apps are available here as well. So I'm going to go over to my username and click on My Apps. And I'm going to scroll down and create a new app. I'm going to call it My Great Cloud App. And it's going to be for Alma. And it's not an add-on, it's a cloud app. I'll provide a description. And then here in the app homepage or URL, I'm going to paste that URL from GitHub. So this is how we know where to go grab your app from. I can provide some screenshots, which will allow users to see more information about my app. I can add an icon, which will appear. And when I'm ready, I can click on Publish. And what that will do, because this is the first time that I'm publishing my app, it's going to go through a manual review process. And once that the app has been reviewed, it will be installed and made available inside of Alma. And then from that point on, I will see my app here in the Available Apps tab, and any user anywhere in the world will be able to install and use my app. So that was how we get started with the Ex Libris Cloud App Framework, and hope you have fun with it.